Hi guys, Squishy Bee here. Today is October 19th, 2022. I just wanted to go over some of the news, and I say some because there's just so much going on, but I wanted to just cover a few of the things that I came across. First thing, I came across an article that says, "Eat the bugs. Netherlands schools offer mealworms and insects to children as sustainable meat substitute." Hundreds of schools in the Netherlands are now offering mealworms and insects to children's lunches as part of a conditioning campaign to normalize eating bugs in the name of saving the environment. Video from RTV Oost, I don't know exactly what that is, shows a bug ambassador and Dutch politician dishing out mealworms, lupine worms, and other insect meals to 10 to 12-year-old students in Zwolle, I think it's pronounced, I might be saying that wrong, who reluctantly began eating the critters. The so-called Taste Mission Adventurous Proteins campaign was developed by the Dutch Food Week group and the Wageningen University and Research. The stated goal of the bug-eating campaign is to bring about behavioral changes in children to embrace sustainable food. That is some serious, scary words right there. Bring about behavioral changes. So basically kind of like re-education camps, but they're calling them schools. I don't know. Sustainable food. We'll see. After a first hesitation, the students of the Octopus Primary School in Zwolle carefully put them in their mouths, mealworms, and as the taste buds get to work on the unfamiliar food, some faces brighten. It tastes like nuts, they say. Ugh. The school children are today exposed to a new eating experience, I'll say. Part of a teaching package about healthy and sustainable food. It is a tried and tested means. Behavioral changes via the, as yet, uninhibited children, because if they appreciate it, then it has a future. There were not only mealworms on the menu at the Octopus today. The 7th grade students also got a taste dishes made with lupine worms and other insects. I gotta say, I don't know what a lupine worm is. I don't know if I'm even pronouncing, maybe it's lupine, I don't know. But I'm not eating any kind of worms, I'm sorry. Some of the European countries already introduced bugs to their school children. Mark my words, this is going to be everywhere. Canada has even begun distributing insects into the wider food supply. The worldwide, they always test it on the kids first. The worldwide bug eating campaign is just one facet of the Great Reset, tied to the WEF's bid to force farmers off their land to limit the nation's livestock supply, which the organization says is to reduce methane emissions. All right, so in case you haven't already been keeping an eye on this, but there's been a lot of stuff going on in that area, like the Netherlands. So let's just take a look at what's been going on with the farmers there. Dutch farmers promise fresh protests after government backs plan to forcibly seize farmland. And you can see their little tractors there. Dutch farmers' organizations have vowed to launch more protests in the Netherlands in response to advice from the government's mediator, who has called for the forcible relocation of farming firms and the seizure of up to 600 farms deemed to be the heaviest nitrogen emitters. Farmers' Defense Force leader Mark van den Oever announced this week that Dutch farmers will once again take to the streets after the government expressed its intentions to adopt the plan presented by former Deputy Prime Minister Johan Remkes, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, to meet the nitrogen standards demanded by the European Union. So they're gonna, they're always coming up with their own rules, whatever it takes to make this great reset work. And it's going to be worldwide. So you put together the whole history of them burning down all of the plant factories and stuff, where they're all different types of factories that were producing food, even some of the prepper food stuff. So they're going to make it where you can't get food other than what they provide for you with the mark of the beast. And also, I know, and not to get too far off track, but I noticed also today, I saw something about the EPA saying that, they're doing all of these crazy regulations where they're showing up and like FBI raid sort of thing for people that are doing simple things like having, ponds with fish in them on their own property, or they busted down the door of another guy because he was growing some type of orchid that they didn't want him growing and selling. So they arrested him, like raid style, like he was some major criminal over a flower. Okay, this is the type of world we're living in. And apparently they were saying that like Biden and also the different people in Congress are using the EPA to sneak through with executive orders all of these crazy new laws. So when you see people talking and pushing so much on, you've got to prepare, you got to have, a house with where you can grow your own food and you can have your own animals and all this stuff, that's not going to be a thing. I can tell you right now that during the Great Tribulation, all these people that put years of effort into homesteads and stuff, thinking that they're going to be able to fish on their own property, having their own little hatcheries and stuff, and chickens and all of these things, they will come and take or destroy or both everything that you have. There is not going to be a self-sustaining property that you can have that they won't take from you. Guaranteed. And they have all of the technology to find you wherever you happen to be. So thinking that, oh, I'm off grid, and I say in quotes, there's no such thing. There is going to be no such thing. So people need to kind of get that idea out of their head. You may be able to get things now, but very soon in the near future, you will not be able to get any kind of food without their mark of the beast, and it'll be the food that they say you can eat. So that's coming way sooner than people think. So anyway, got that off my chest. Moving on, I wanted to show you one of the tweets that were, this was a little bit back this year, but this wasn't like this week. This is something, this has been going on for a little while. It says, in an escalation of actions taken in protest against the government's plans to shut down vast swaths of farmlands, Dutch farmers dumped manure on highways across the Netherlands on Wednesday morning. So they've been protesting this for a while. Also, this lady that I came across says, that's been kind of vocal on the topic, says, update on the Dutch farmers. Our criminal government has announced yesterday that they'll be speeding up the theft of our farmers' land. 500 to 600 farmers will be forced to sell their land to the state in the next year. The farmers have announced new protests, so stay tuned. And look at this. Look at this picture of all of the tractors of these farmers protesting. This is a big protest, and this is a lot of people that are being affected by this. And while I kind of think that, I don't want to sound like a Debbie Downer, but it's kind of, resistance is futile, okay? That I know people might get angry with that, but they want people fighting back and resisting, because then they can label you as a terrorist. So I don't think that it's a good idea to get sucked into some of these resistance movements. While people, I understand it, okay? I understand where you want to fight for your rights. But if you know the Bible, you know that these things have to come to pass in order for God's plans to go through. And even Jesus, when he was being taken from the garden before he was crucified, one of the people that he was with, tried to fight back for him and used a sword and struck one of the soldiers and cut his ear off. And Jesus was like, no, don't be doing that. I can defend myself. I could call down, a group of angels to come and fight on my behalf. But we can't do that, because then how could God's prophecy be fulfilled, and how could his plan come to pass? So eventually there is going to be the millennial kingdom where Jesus reigns for 1,000 years. And for all of these things to come to pass, this stuff has to happen. So you're really kind of just fighting against God, really. I know it's obviously Satan is Satan is actually doing all this stuff, and the Antichrist spirit is obviously behind all of these evil things, clearly. But God is allowing it because it has to be in order to bring about all of the plans that he has, and Armageddon and everything that's coming. So there is no talking, to people out of war and people out of these various crises that are going on, right? Because it's going to happen, like it or not. That's just the way that it is. And by getting sucked into things, they're just going to then say, see, these people are dangerous. These people are fighting against the government, and they're domestic terrorists. Okay, so that's just the way that they're looking for an excuse to label us, label anybody who is like that. So eventually they will label people during the tribulation that way, so that they can then easily round them up and execute them as by law. They'll have law saying, see, they're a terrorist, therefore their punishment is worthy of death. And so that's how it's going to happen and people will be like, okay with that, because at that point, the people that will be left will be the two sides. It'll be the people that'll be the Jews mainly that were blinded during this period of grace, that then they have the veil removed, and then they realize, oh wait, we messed up, and we shouldn't be following this guy, this Antichrist that they may start to follow at the beginning, but then he ends up doing something partway through, and they realize, oh no, we've made a huge mistake here. And so anyway, those people will then have to pay with their lives, unfortunately, a lot of them. So some will make it into the millennium alive in their human body, but a lot of them are going to be beheaded. It tells us very clearly that in the Bible. So anyway, I wanted to show you some footage of the farmer protests, and also this lady Eva that's talking about this. And maybe this will explain it a wee bit better than I can. So let me just show you this, and I'll be right back.
Even horen. Ja, het begint inmiddels behoorlijk te regenen, dus... Ja, deze mannen en vrouwen die gaan terug richting huis. Het is niet anders.
You'd think it is too crazy to be true, but it's not too crazy because our government consists of a bunch of inhumane, greedy liars and thieves. So like you said, they are going to expropriate, forcefully buy out 600 farms in the next year. They say, of course, that it's because of a nitrogen crisis, which is completely manufactured and made up. We don't have a nitrogen crisis. They are taking away these people's property. They are taking away their lives. They are taking away businesses that have been in Dutch families for centuries sometimes. And people are becoming desperate. We had a farmer last week, 43-year-old man who killed himself because he said he couldn't take it anymore. And he's not the only one. There are countless of examples like him. I can't stress this enough. We have a government that says everything that you worked for, that you own, your life, your livelihood, doesn't matter. I want it, and so I get it. You have nothing to say about it. Is that really what the Free West is about? Is that what we want? Is that something that we should accept for any type of crisis that they can just create out of thin air? It's insane. And we should stand up against it. And I hope that the farmers will start doing it again. And they said they will, and I will support them 110%.
Okay, so another thing that I wanted to go over with you is, in case you didn't see this, do you recall how I had done a lot of videos talking about people that were arrested, often sentenced to death, waiting in prisons in various countries where it's illegal to be a Christian. One of them that was very common was in Tehran, Iran. And one of the things that has happened in the last couple of weeks is this horrible fire in the Evin Prison in Iran. And this was all part of these protests that were going on, where the protests were a lot of women rights things and like alphabet rights and stuff, if you know what I mean. And those protester people apparently had started a fire at this prison, and I even have footage of them putting like accelerant on it to try to get the fire going. And this is, a lot of people were injured in this fire, and it's really horrible to think of this as being their solution to their protests, because the people in these prisons, a lot of them are good people that are in there that shouldn't be. Okay, they're people that were just arrested for being a Christian. Sometimes it's like they're arrested for drinking wine at a communion, the little tiny cups of wine that they have for Christian communion and things like that. They just look for excuses to arrest anyone who is not Islam. So it's really sad to think that these people are already suffering in, terrible conditions in these prisons, and then for them to become the victims of this fire on top of it. So anyway, if you wouldn't mind, I'm asking for prayer for these people that are that were injured in this fire, and people that are imprisoned in general for their faith. Because there's a lot of that going on. You see a lot of that on that Voice of the Martyrs site and Open Missions and things like that, where you get these stories of other brothers and sisters in Christ that are going through tremendous persecution around the world, where it's very hostile towards Christians. So if you could also pray that not only that they are well taken care of in these conditions, in these prisons and stuff, but that also others are saved because of them being in there. Because I think that's a lot of the time why people, Christians are allowed to be put in jail. Why you think, why does God allow this? Well, sometimes it is the best way for them to then evangelize other prisoners who may never hear the gospel otherwise, because there are people that don't know Christ that are stuck in these prisons for life until they're executed, right? And so where else are they going to hear the gospel? And so sometimes I think God allows these situations so that they can get in there. And you can tell when you hear the stories of these people that they know that the people, the Christians that are in jail for this. They often will speak about how they've been given these opportunities to witness to other prisoners, sometimes even guards and stuff. I mean, even look at in the Bible how when there were apostles in prison and how they got a guard saved and his family because a Roman guard, right? Because they were in jail and they were singing hymns and stuff, and there was the earthquake and all of the prison doors were opened, and this jailer thought that all the prisoners had escaped, and so he was getting ready to kill himself because he knew that he would be killed for allowing prisoners to escape. And they're like, no, don't kill yourself, we're still here. And so they ended up getting this guard saved. So that's still going on today, is my point. That there are still people, brave Christians in these places that are evangelizing to people. And so sometimes, in addition to our prayers for their safety and their being treated well, where sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're in there and terrible things are going on. But sometimes God will protect them, and then they get other people saved in there. So just remember that in your prayers, that it's not for nothing. That their suffering is for God's glory in the end. They're good in God's glory, and a lot of them are getting released too. So in various prisons, there was I don't want to get too off topic, but there was this one girl that I was so concerned for because she was so frail looking, and she was giving all of her food to another prisoner who was disabled, and she would do her chores for her, or take her punishments for her, give her food and stuff because she wasn't doing well. And so this girl got released. I was so excited to hear this. So that wasn't this prison, but she was released. So keep praying for these people, because, and you can write to them as well. I know that I've said this several times on here, but for those who haven't heard this, you can go to the prisoner alert from the Voice of the Martyrs, and you can write to people that are in these prisons. So hopefully that these people will recover, and something good will come out of this whole thing with this prison. Maybe they'll get released because the prison's burned down. Who knows? Who knows what'll happen there? But I wanted to show you some footage from this because I do have some footage of the fire. So I'm going to show you that real quick, and I'll be back.
زندانی ها رو از اوین دارن میبرن با اتوبوس، معلوم نیست کجا دارن میبرن. اسکورتشون هم کردن دور و برشون.
officials here have a story. They say that there was a clash between the prisoners, and some of those prisoners has set the fire on the warehouse or the sewing workshop in the prison. Some of the witnesses are saying that some of the Molotov cocktails were thrown into the prison, and that they started the fire there. Right after that, we have seen the security forces firing and also using tear gas to disperse people.
Okay, so some crazy stuff going on all over the world. Let's take a look a bit at Russia. First, I came across this really strange footage of like an unscheduled blood moon over Moscow, which I thought was kind of weird. I don't know what's going on there. I also came across a strange recording, which you probably heard in different places, that Putin had put out a message directly to normal, in quotes, Americans. So it was translated, and I can't put the whole thing on here because I don't know if there would be copyright, but it does say a few interesting things that I thought you should hear. Let's just look at just a small piece of it. Hopefully I can put a small bit on here.
Не надо здесь, не надо, что называется, перекладывать с больной головы на здоровую, во всем обвиняя нашу страну. Хочу, чтобы меня услышали и простые граждане западных государств. Вас сейчас настойчиво пытаются убедить в том, что все ваши трудности – это результат каких-то враждебных действий России, что из вашего собственного кошелька надо оплатить борьбу с мифической русской угрозой. Все это ложь. А правда в том, что текущие проблемы, с которыми сталкиваются миллионы людей на Западе, стали результатом многолетних действий правящих элит их государств. Их ошибок, близорукости и амбиций. Эти элиты думают не о том, как улучшить жизнь своих граждан в западных странах. Они одержимы своими корыстными интересами и сверхприбылями.
So I also wanted to share this other clip where he had been talking about a lot of really interesting scripture, which I found the video and then it was almost immediately taken down. So I wasn't able to share it, but it was really odd. For somebody who is doing what he's doing, it was really strange to hear him talking like a Christian. I mean, it was all stuff that you would hear from another brother in Christ. It was very strange. And, but then to hear somebody saying that, and then for the things that he's also involved with doing, it's just a weird contradiction. So I don't know what to make of that, but I wasn't able to share it because it got censored really quickly. And that was on either BitChute or Brighteon. It was one of the channels that normally don't get censored like that. So it was really strange. Also, I see that the Russian Defense Ministry announced that two Tu-95MS strategic bombers of the Air Force made a 12-hour flight over the Pacific Ocean, the Bering Sea, and the Sea of, I don't know how to pronounce this, Okhotsk? I'm sorry. The flight of the strategic bombers, which can carry nuclear weapons, came at a time of heightened tension over the war of Ukraine and Moscow's confrontation with the West, with the U.S. and NATO on alert over Russian threats to use nuclear weapons. The U.S.-Canada Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD, announced that the U.S. Air Force intercepted 2 Russian Tu-95 bombers off the coast of Alaska on Monday. And I realize this is probably a little bit late, and you probably already heard this, but I was very sick all week, and my son was also taken to the hospital. It's been a crazy couple of weeks. I've been sick, actually, for a couple of weeks. Anyway, they give a picture here, and also, I wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on with normal people in Russia, because that's where a lot of our prayers should be focused on. Of course, we should be praying for the leaders that they find Jesus, because that is where our hope lies. And if the leaders find Jesus, then that will trickle down to the rest of society, right? But preparations for the use of nuclear yellow and red alert in Russia. Decree of B. Putin, he declared a state of siege and martial law. So it says Russia's on the brink of using tactical nuclear weapons, as by decision of B. Putin, martial law was declared in the regions of Donetsk, I'm so bad with these words, Luhansk, Kherson, and Zaporizhzhia. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. As a result of the state of siege of Russian territories. This decision essentially means that Russia is in a state of war, which justifies the defense of Russian territories by any means. This is also confirmed by the fact that there is a yellow and red alert in various Russian regions. Today, B. Putin and the Russian leadership entered the stage of preparing the Russian people for the imminent use of nuclear weapons. That's kind of scary. Another one says, nuclear warning, nuke threatened world more dangerous than any time since World War II, top Brit security chief warns. Also, I wanted to mention that a sweet brother in Christ that I have been watching for a while, not because he's big into politics or anything, but he is just a sweet, kind person that lives, a normal person that lives in Russia with his wife and new baby. We kind of got to watch him grow as he learned English and as he started his new family, and we watched how, his wife went through her pregnancy, and kind of they went over what it's like to live in Russia as a normal person. And, I have been praying for this couple, being that, it was already kind of a tough life there, sort of, with respect to police corruption, and the cost of living is very low there, but the wages are equally ridiculously low. So it was interesting to learn about what it's like for a normal person to live in Russia. And it was kind of that we were blessed to see that inside peek at what it's like to be there. And he came on the other day and talked a little bit about what is going on there now. And he did say that there is martial law going on, and that it is a little bit scary. He's trying to stay hopeful, but you can kind of see the fear in his face, that he's trying really hard to stay strong, because he's a really positive, upbeat person that tries always to just spread joy and hope to the rest of us. But it's really concerning to see. You can kind of tell in his demeanor that it's getting real there. And he said that they are, even though they said that they were just drafting people that had military experience, he said that that is actually not accurate, because that he knows of people that are being drafted that don't have military experience, and people that are over the age that he said was the break limit, where they were only going to be, I think they said 18. I don't remember what the cutoff date was, or age. It was like 35 or 40 or something. And they were older than whatever that cutoff age was. And he said that his concerns were also that the police are already very corrupt and have a little bit too much power, which they abuse. and that now they have been given all of the power, basically military level police state there. And so already they will pull you over for before this happened, they would pull you over for every little thing, see what they can get out of you. Everything was like a bribe system there. Even when his wife was having her baby, they said that normally, you can't get like a private room unless you bribe the doctors. It's like everyone is full of bribery, even their medical system. And because they weren't partaking in this bribery stuff, they were unable to get a private room. And even just your quality of health care is not the greatest unless you're willing to go through this crazy, weird system that they have there. So, anyway, just keep in mind that there are regular, everyday people that are caught up in this mess in all of these countries, all of them. So I see a lot of bickering back and forth on social media and stuff where, people need to remember that not to hate other countries and people, that they were all people, that we're all God's children, and that everyone, we're all sinners from all countries, all walks of life, all colors, all cultures, and we all need Jesus equally. Okay, so it seems like he may be moving towards this. I'm hoping, I don't know for real if he's saved, but please pray for this family. I'm really hoping that they are saved or they're getting saved in time, because it seems like they're moving towards that if they're not already. It's hard to tell. Sometimes they say things that sound like they may be, or at least moving towards that, because I think a lot of their followers are Christians. And but then again, there's also always people that get in there and try to twist things that may lead them to New Age or some other crazy doctrine. So hopefully that's not the case, So if you wouldn't mind, they're trying desperately to go on this trip. Their plan from the beginning was to learn English and to be able to travel and go and meet other people from other cultures. And they wanted to come to the United States so badly. And so they've been trying desperately to save up the money for the plane tickets to come over here, which is hard with the way that their wages are so low over there. And so he said finally they were going to try to do it, but they now think they may not be able to get out of Russia. They may not be able to get on a plane and leave the way that things are going. So I pray that they're able to get out before they stop people at the airport. But you could tell that he sounded a little bit concerned that that might not happen. So anyway, I wanted to just also take a look at what's going on in China. A really weird thing happened there when they were having this meeting where I think they were voting on some sort of thing with the leader of China. I don't want to say his name because I might get, my video taken down. But it says, not feeling well, China's ex-leader led out of party Congress. The 79-year-old Li Jin-tu, I think, seemed reluctant to leave with two men who approached him while he was seated next to the president. This seemed really sketchy. It said former Chinese president, he's the former Chinese president, Hu Jintao, was unexpectedly escorted out of Saturday's closing ceremony of the Communist Party Congress in a dramatic moment that disrupted the highly choreographed event. The frail-looking 79-year-old seemed reluctant to leave the front row of proceedings at Beijing's Great Hall of the People. Great Hall of the People, like their concerns are for their people. Sure, China. Where he was sitting next to President, I'm not going to say his last name, but you know who I'm talking about. A steward attempted to take a sitting Hu by the arm before being shaken off. The steward then attempted to lift Hu with both hands from under the armpits. After an exchange of about a minute in which Hu spoke briefly with Xi'an Premier Li, oh man, I'm never going to get that last name, Kikwang? I'm sorry. He was led out of the hall. A seated Xi was filmed holding the papers down on the desk as Hu tried to grab them. Hu patted Li's shoulder as he left with most of his colleagues staring firmly ahead. Now he is much better. I'm sure as he was re-educated, I say in quotes. Very, very strange. Then it says, leadership shuffle. Hu's abrupt exit came just before the 2,300 delegates at the Congress voted unanimously to endorse Xi's core leadership position. I'm sure. Search results for Hu Jintao on the Twitter-like Weibo platform appeared to be heavily censored, with the most recent result dated Friday and posts limited to those of official accounts. Man, but let's make our country more and more like China and Russia. Great idea. These people pushing socialism. It's really scary, especially when you see people coming out that survived the communist regimes of other countries and come out and say, hey, wait, we started just like this with the socialist stuff, and we're seeing exactly the same steps to what led to what's happening in the country that I just survived barely, and or like Hitler times and the way that went about and how that began. It's all exactly happening step by step here in the United States. And but people just keep on voting them in, keep on keeping on, guys. I guess people enjoy being in a dictatorship. Anyway, there's a slight bit of a scuffle here, and I've got it on video if you'd like to take a look at this real quick before we move on to the next topic.
تعتبر بمثابة جلسة ختامية أيضا للمؤتمر وفيها نتيجة وخلاصة لما تم في المؤتمر العشرين الشيوعي الصيني.
All right, so I don't know what happened there. It's kind of strange, but I would not want to be somebody that tries to speak out against that leader in particular, because they usually don't have a good outlook on their health afterwards. Anyway, moving on to the next thing, I wanted to talk a little bit about something that I feel is going to lead to the setup for tribulation for the Jews. If you've noticed, there is a huge increase in antisemitism all over the world, including in the United States. And it seems like it may be pushing people out of these other areas and back to their homeland, which is what the Bible says will happen, that the Jews will all come back to Israel, and then during that time frame is when the Messiah comes, and, well, they think it's their Messiah, but it's really the Antichrist. And the whole tribulation starts, where that God goes back to dealing with the Jews. But I came across a really crazy article where something went down in Bethlehem, which is very strange because that's normally a touristy area where people were safe to go and visit the birth place of Jesus. It says Bethlehem, where Jews and Jew-loving Christians are not welcome. Israelis review bomb Bethlehem hotel after manager goes on anti-Semitic rant over troublesome Christian guests. Talk about our apartheid. If you are a Jew or a Christian who loves and supports the Jewish people, you are not welcome in Bethlehem, apparently. At least not at the Bethlehem Hotel, whose manager went on an anti-Semitic rant earlier this week. Oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pronounce his name. Elias Al-Araja was miffed after his hotel was shot up by Palestinian gunmen, who in turn had been set off by social media posts showing Jewish symbols being displayed at an event in the conference hall of the hotel. This is what it was. You can see a picture here. The grievous offense, pardon the sarcasm, was committed by a group of Filipino Christians staying at the hotel. They wanted to have a party in the conference hall, apparently in celebration of the biblical Feast of Tabernacles. So this is a pretty common thing during this festival. It shows a picture of what they had set up. And they apparently didn't like that and shot the place up, and the manager kind of lost his crap and flipped out over Christians not being welcome there anymore. And apparently a lot of people went and took the 4-star hotel down to a 1-star, which is the lowest you can go because you can't put a 0. And there were so many comments on there on the reviews of, don't come here if you value your life kind of thing. But it's really sad state of affairs that this is happening. But I feel like this is a big part of what's going on, where the Jews are heading back to Israel. And you can see from other articles, so many Jews are returning to Israel that the government is worried they won't be able to absorb them. It talks about, I won't read the whole article, but basically it's talking about how so many people are returning to the homeland that the government is kind of like, I don't know what to do with all these people, but they have this agreement. They take their covenants very seriously, just like God takes his covenants very seriously. And they really do believe that they believe in the Jew part of the Bible. Okay, they don't believe in the New Testament, and they don't believe Jesus was their Messiah, but soon they will. And it's going to be, unfortunately, too late for a lot of them, which is really sad. There's also some very high-level rabbis that are saying that he's already holding meetings with the Messiah. It says a snapshot of Israelis' spiritual hunger as biggest rabbis are afraid to leave the country lest they miss Messiah's coming. So this is another reason why a lot of people are going back to their homeland in Israel, because they expect that he's coming soon. It says a recent interview on Israeli radio featured prominent rabbis explaining that the Messiah is just about to reveal himself. Rabbi Yaakov Sijaltz told religious broadcaster Radio 2000 that Rabbi Chaim Kanivsky, who passed away earlier this year, had told him that Kanivsky, was already in direct contact with the Messiah. To understand why religious Jews are taking this seriously, it's important to know that Rabbi Chaim Kanivsky was considered one of the 2 or 3 top rabbis of the ultra-Orthodox Jewish community in Israel. And Rabbi Zischultz says that Kanivsky and others of the mystical concealed rabbis had tasked him with informing the public of the Messiah's imminent arrival. Rabbi Sichelt began his explosive 3-hour interview with a warning. The process of redemption is about to start happening very quickly and at a fast pace. It is important that people remain calm and steady to act properly in the right time. There is a potential Messiah in every generation, and there are righteous men who know precisely who it is. This is, of course, true in this generation. Getting the word out now that the Messiah is closer than ever is a matter of life and death. Haven't you heard of Gog and Magog? That is what is going to happen very soon. Right now, the situation is explosive, more than you can possibly imagine. Everyone needs to know whether they are on the inside or if they are going to be left out. So just keep in mind, every time they're talking about this Messiah, to them, it is their Messiah in their mind, but in reality, they've missed their actual Messiah, which was Jesus. And this so-called Messiah is the man of sin that will come, the Antichrist, that they will allow to come into their temple and do these, that'll start up the sacrifices, and then you add that to the fact that they had those 5 red heifers. Everything is falling into place. They have this this whole speed train thing that's being built to take people to this temple once it's built, and they have that whole one world religion thing building that's going on. Everything is completely in place, and it's going to start happening very quickly when it does. And then, halfway through, for those of us who know the story from the Bible, that something happens where the Antichrist goes into the Holy of Holies and declares himself as God, and all of the Jews then realize, oh no, we've made this terrible mistake, and they all run for the hills, and literally. So it's all being set up, and be encouraged, no matter what you're going through right now. Just be encouraged that we are definitely living in the time that we're going to see the rapture. We may not know the exact day, but it's going to be soon. We can definitely see that we're in the season. So I wanted to just share that with you so that you could be encouraged no matter what is going on in your life right now. And everybody's weary, everybody's having troubles of various kinds. But keep your eye on the Lord, keep your eye on Jesus, and your ear listening for that trumpet, because it's going to be blowing soon. Okay, so I wanted to go over some things that were going on kind of in the science category, and how I find some of this stuff connected to Bible prophecy. So we're seeing more and more of the animal die-offs. We saw just recently the nearly 500 whales die in New Zealand, which was just horrible, and the numbers are just staggering. And there's been so much bird die-offs. They call it from avian flu and various things, but overall, there's all different kinds of birds dying, dropping from the skies and everything, not just bird flu cases. And the bees situation with the bees dying, that has not gotten completely better. It may be better in certain areas, but other areas it's gotten worse. I mean, this is saying that there was 500 million bees dead in 3 months in Brazil. So there's some really crazy stuff going on, and if you already saw this, I apologize, but like I said, I'm behind. There were billions of snow crabs found to be missing from the Alaska waters. And that is kind of nuts. I mean, we're talking about a huge industry where people rely on these crabs. When you think of the big crabs that come from that area, they're just gone. They're gone. It says scientists have been left perplexed after billions of crabs and crustaceans reportedly disappeared mysteriously in the Bering Sea off the U.S. state of Alaska in the last several years. Ben Daly, a researcher with the Alaska Department of Fish and Game, told U.S. media outlet CNN the snow crab population shrank from about 8 billion in 2018 to 1 billion in 2021. I know that word people don't want to hear. People don't want to hear CNN. But I kind of check periodically to see what those people are actually saying, because I know it's generally propaganda. Well, yes, there are definitely animal die-offs going on of all kinds, fish, all kinds of birds, and beasts of the fields, all kinds of stuff, right? The reasoning behind it, they're going to be pushing the climate change stuff because it fits their whole Great Reset stuff, all right? And it's mainly to draw people's attention away from the true biblical meaning behind all of the die-offs, okay? This is not something that we should be going to places like CNN, MSNBC, and things like that, ABC, CBS, the mainstream propaganda channels to find out why these things are going on. Go to the Bible to find out, because the stuff that's going on all around us can be answered through the Bible. It's all coming true like a checklist, okay? But they will try to make up other reasons of why these things are happening to tell you, look over here, and don't look at God. Okay, don't look to God for your answers. Anyway, it says, snow crab is by far the most abundant of all the Bering Sea crab species that is caught commercially, Daly said. So the shock and awe of many billions missing from the population is worth noting, and that includes all the females and babies. So we're going to see a lot more of this stuff going on, and we'll just take a look at two quick scriptures that talk about this. In Joel chapter 1, it says, "How do the beasts groan? The herds of cattle are perplexed, because they have no pasture. Yea, the flocks of sheep are made desolate. O Lord, to thee will I cry, for the fire hath devoured the pastures of the wilderness, and the flame hath burned all the trees of the field. The beasts of the field cry also unto thee, for the rivers of waters are dried up, and the fire hath devoured the pastures of the wilderness." So this is just a sneak peek of what is to come, as there's going to be more droughts. There's going to be, as we can see already, so much of the water drying up, so much of the wildfires going on, the forest fires and stuff. And this is going to affect all of the animals. And who knows, really, who knows what is going on in our waters? Okay, because they dump so much stuff in there. And they're doing so much stuff with HARP and chemtrails and all this stuff that has to come down at some point, and it's going to land in the waters. It's going to affect everything that lives in the waters, and they're doing just so much other terrible stuff that, you know, it's not just the animals, but it's affecting our health and stuff too. But Hosea 4:3 says, "Therefore shall the land mourn, and every one that dwelleth therein shall languish, with the beasts of the field and with the fowls of the heaven. Yea, the fishes of the sea also shall be taken away." So we're already starting to see the beginning of this. That just covered the birds, the beasts, and the fish. Okay? So that's quite a few things that, and this is just the beginning. Just the beginning, okay? There's going to be nothing left. And they're also, you count the fact that they're deliberately killing off animals and things so that they can push only their food sources on us, which is going to be whatever they choose to give us, and only if you have the mark of the beast. It's all going to be tied to that, okay? And you're just starting to see it begin now. Another thing that I came across that's really disturbing: DARPA's next generation of super zombie soldiers. Creepy, creepy, creepy. Here's how DARPA is creating the next generation of genetically modified soldiers. DARPA, an agency under the U.S. Department of Defense, has started a heavily funded project that aims to enhance human ability in war zones by altering the genetic code recipe of their soldiers. Remember that term, okay? They hope to achieve supremacy by making soldiers that are stronger, smarter, more focused, and lack empathy. Because that's just what you want when you're dealing with soldiers that have all of these superior traits, right? You want them to just not care and not be able to be reasoned with. They don't care about your feelings or whatever they're doing to you, okay? You're not going to be able to expect any mercy from them. The credit goes to a relatively new scientific field called genetic engineering. It's where scientists experiment with the cookbook. Also note that term, because I'm going to come back to that. That contains the recipe that makes you and all life around you. All life forms have their own recipe, and just like food, there are a finite number of ingredients to choose from. Combination of different ingredients in different proportions make different life forms. Genetic engineers are practically capable of making glow-in-the-dark babies by simply adding certain genetic codes of jellyfish into the human genetic code. Research suggests that the DARPA super soldiers might one day be able to grow a new limb if they lose it in combat, tried and tested on mice. The part of the brain that is responsible for empathy can be turned off by gene therapy, making the soldiers oblivious to fear, fatigue, and emotions. What makes this thought even more terrifying is the Human-Assisted Neural Devices program, which focuses on controlling the brain. The result is the next generation of biological war machines, in quotes, which could be controlled by a sophisticated joystick. Okay, so much disturbing content in this article, all right? But I wanted to go over a few things and just connect a few thoughts that you might want to just mull over, okay? This is a little bit of an older article, but there's something that I wanted you to think about when it comes to this whole idea of recipe and DNA and altering these things, because this is exactly, obviously, what was done back in Genesis. That God said, no, we're not going to have you mixing and matching with stuff like the fallen angels were doing, where they were mixing fallen angels with people, fallen angels with animals, various things where they splice stuff together, okay? And God wiped out the earth with a flood because it was all corrupted with fallen angel stuff. And now they're back at it again, and one of the things that I want you to start paying attention to is they're always putting these things out in media, movies, TV, things like that. If you start to pay attention to the stuff that they're saying, you're going to catch a lot more things that are actually being done in real life, because they put the truth in these things, little bits and pieces along the way. Sometimes you have to go back to older movies and stuff, because if you look now, you can see stuff that was in movies from quite a long time ago, okay, because they do it way in advance. And one of the things, the first thing that came to my mind when I read this was and he was talking about the recipe and the cookbook, is the movie Lady in the Water. I don't know if you ever saw this, and if so, if you remember it, because it was kind of an older M. Night Shyamalan movie, okay? I want you to think back to the part where he was talking to the various people that were in that complex, and spoiler alert, if this is something that you haven't seen, mute me, okay? They were talking to the various people who had different parts of this story, okay? And one of the people was a writer that they were looking for. And at first, they saw that this guy was writing something, and then when they found out that it was just a cookbook, they're like, oh, it's just a stupid cookbook, it's not going to be a book about just recipes, right? But in reality, it was not just a book about recipes for food, okay? I'm going to read off to you what was actually said about this cookbook, okay? And see if you can make any connections in your mind to what we're going to, well, we won't be seeing because we'll be raptured out of here, but what is going to happen during the Great Tribulation. A future-seeing sea nymph tells him, a boy in the Midwest of this land will grow up in a home where your book will be on the shelf and spoken of often. He will grow up with these ideas in his head. He will grow into a great orator. He will speak, and his words will be heard throughout this land and throughout the world. The boy will become a leader of this country and begin a movement of great change. He will speak of you and your words. Your book will be the seeds of many of his great thoughts. It will be the seeds of change. All right, so this also, by the way, that somehow this guy ends up being killed over this book, okay? But to me, this sounds kind of like this guy is the Antichrist that they're referring to. For one, an orator is somebody who is like a charismatic leader, a speaker, somebody who can command the attention of a room, kind of, to speak. And he's going to be a leader and a movement of great change, right? But if you're talking about the seeds of change and stuff, I mean, they were constantly corrupting the seed of God. This is what Satan did from the beginning in the Garden of Eden. He corrupted the seed of man by tricking Eve into taking a bite of that apple. All right, and I think that you see this a lot, this apple, the bite out of the apple thing. You see that noted in a lot of different things, like in I Pet Goat. It's all about this changing our DNA and changing our human bodies into something else, which will be part machine and part human. All right, and I think that they're changing people at that level that we just heard from the article about the super soldiers. And this was just a little bit of a clue towards that back in this movie. You got to take little bits and pieces where you get it. When you start to put them all together, you're going to see a big picture put together. And then you add all of the themes that they push with programming you over and over to accept these changes that they're going to push on the world during tribulation. Like all of the ideas that it's good to want to be super strong and super fast, like an X-Men, or like all of these different things that they put in movies, like that movie Upgrade, where I don't recommend watching. Some of these movies are really very horribly violent and stuff. I'm not recommending them. I'm just saying there is a movie where there was a guy that was in a wheelchair, and some sort of AI system took over him, and then he could walk around, and not only walk around, but he could like do karate and all these things. He could do things that he couldn't do before, because they're saying, well, this AI made him so much more improved, upgraded, right? So they're going to push this idea, and they're pushing it on this younger generation where that's what they're growing up with. Having this stuff just flooded into their minds 24/7. In gaming, in movies, in media, in everything. And so that's what they want to do. They want to escape the boundaries of the human body, and they want to be able to do all these other things that makes them superhuman, right? And so this is, I think, going to be a really big theme during the Great Tribulation, and we can see that already with the Great Reset and the stuff that this Carl Schwab is pushing. He even talks about how we're going to be merging the biology with digital world, and that first it will be in clothing, and then it will be under the skin, and then eventually you'll just be able to do stuff with your mind, right? And it's something that's not decades away. It was something that was going to be happening very soon. And so there's just so much going on. kind of like a convergence of so many things all at once that I feel like this is what the Bible was talking about with the labor pains coming closer together and becoming more intense. There's just so much, you can't even keep up with it all. It's overwhelming. And there's something else that I'm going to try to go over that I'm working on, of something a series that I watched because I was very curious. I've been very much interested in their angle with the whole aliens and the fallen angels and stuff like that. And I came across something that just blew my mind, how much stuff was in this that had symbolism and stuff that I could not believe, the clues in this thing and the connections to that and iPet Goat and stuff. So I'm going to do a separate video on just that because there was so much in this one show that I'm gonna do a video on just that. So keep an eye out for that. So anyway, I wanted to continue on here. There's something else that you may or may not have come across, but it's very heavily censored, and it's something that possibly this one thing could get my whole video taken down and possibly give me a strike and put me in timeout for a couple of weeks. So I'm hesitant to even talk about this, but I want you to look into it. So I'm going to leave you with the basic gist of the headline, and maybe you can research this a bit on your own. But it says, Boston University defends controversial study on COVID hybrid strain with 80% mortality rate in mice. So you may have already seen this, but it's just boggling my mind that they get away with using this dual use and what's the word? I'm sorry, I've had so much trouble with word finding lately because of the stroke thing. In fact, I may, like I said, I haven't been well for a couple of weeks. That it's possible that I've had another little stroke. We're trying to figure out what is going on with that. Gain of function, that's it. The gain of function stuff that they were doing back in Wuhan and everything. There's actually a university here that they're doing an investigation of here in the United States that they're being accused of doing this study where they're upgrading the COVID to a much higher fatality rate. It's just mind-boggling, the stuff that they get away with. So look into that if you'd like to learn more about that. I wanted to also talk about the huge Ebola issue that's going on. The World Health Organization has said that they're investigating the most recent 8 Ebola cases, as initial reports indicate they weren't among known contacts. In addition, 2 confirmed cases from the Mubende district sought care in the capital, Kampala, increasing the risks of transmission in the city. That's not a good situation, because that's saying that they were people that were unrelated. So that there's different cases going on. Then that moved on to say Uganda locks down districts as Ebola spreads. So this has happened very quickly and progressed. It just, the last couple of weeks when I was sick and I came back and I was like, whoa, this is really blown up here. Uganda has ordered 2 areas of the country into lockdown amid a terrifying outbreak of deadly Ebola. Houses of worship and entertainment venues have been shuttered in the East African nation's Cassandra district. I'm sorry. I don't know why I want to keep adding an R in there. Cassandra district, about 20 miles from the capital of Kampala, as well as the neighboring district of Mubende. Curfews were imposed in both districts, too, as were limitations on travel in and out of the region. These are temporary measures to control the spread of Ebola, Ugandan President Yoweri, I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, Museveni, possibly, said in a televised address as he announced the moves Saturday. We should all cooperate with the authorities so we bring this outbreak to an end in the shortest possible time. Here's a picture of them burying, I think this was a 3-year-old that had passed away from Ebola. This is really getting out of hand pretty quickly. It's also something that I found oddly controversial on Twitter. This is how I found out about this, is I went and I was just kind of looking up what was going on in the news. As soon as I saw that Ebola was trending, I'm like, what happened since I was away? And I went on there, and it was just a strange back and forth, arguing back and forth about it being airborne. And so you might want to just kind of research that yourself, because it was too much to put on here, and I felt like it would get censored, and I don't really know for sure what is going on with that. You'll have to make your own decisions on what you think on that, because it's not just normal people arguing. There were actual doctors and people that know what they're talking about on both sides that seemed to each have their own opinions on whether it was airborne or not. They were kind of arguing about that, and I don't really understand what on earth is happening there. I can't even fathom why are they hiding that if that was the case, unless it's just another trying to avoid panic situation. But I don't know, it's kind of scary. I've always suspected there's going to be some Ebola or Marburg sort of type of thing that happens in the tribulation, because of the significant predictive programming on diseases that are connected to apocalypse type movies that are always, they're bleeding from the eyes, bleeding from the ears. There's always some sort of hemorrhagic thing. And then on top of that, just some of the knowledge that I have from kind of an inside Operation Paperclip sort of knowledge from some family members that were working in that area. So I've always suspected and watched for this to happen. And I've always thought it was going to be Marburg. So we'll see, because that was also going around there for a little bit. So it makes me nervous when they're doing all of this gain of function stuff, that they're going to mix that with something else, and then we're going to have some sort of hemorrhagic COVID or something. I don't know. It just scares me to death that they get to do all of these things, constantly manipulating this stuff, and they get away with it. It's just mind-boggling to me. This says there are currently believed to be 58 cases in the country, according to Ugandan officials. The current cases are made up of the so-called strain of the Ebola virus, a relatively rare variant that last reared its head in Uganda in 2012. Uganda also saw an outbreak of the deadlier Zaire strain of the virus in 2019. So we should probably be praying for the people in that area for sure, because it's a horrible thing, horrible thing. And even if it doesn't spread outside of that area, please pray for the people in that area, because it's just a terrible way to go. I'll tell you that. And I don't know that I don't know that they're going to get the help that they need, because there's so much mistrust, I guess you'd say. They don't trust outsiders coming in, and they attack the people when they come in from the outside. I think you can draw your own conclusions on why they don't trust Americans or doctors from the outside. Most likely there's been some history there. And so I I think that when they come in, they're trying to say, hey, we'd like to come in and inoculate you for this disease. They're like, no. And for them to say no when they know how horrible that disease is, there's got to be something going on there. I'm not going to guess or do anything that would, get my channel taken away. But you might want to just look into that just a little bit on your own and see what might be the trouble there. Another thing that's going on is cholera. There seems to be quite the increase in cholera cases, like in several different countries. It says on the WHO site, around the world, 29 countries have reported cholera outbreaks this year, including 13 countries that did not have outbreaks last year. Cholera is highly dangerous and can kill within a day, but it can be prevented with 2 doses of safe and effective oral, you-know-whats. And very quickly after that, it went on to say, shortage of cholera, you-know-whats, leads to temporary suspension of 2-dose strategy as cases rise worldwide. The exceptional decision reflects the grave state of the cholera, stockpile. Very interesting how quickly it went from you need to get 2 of these to we don't have 2 of these. And I see this quite a bit, this pattern of if they're saying, hurry, 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 get this, or they're going to be gone. And people panic and are like, oh, I better hurry and get this before it's gone. I tend to be like, whoa, wait. I don't think I want to hurry and get this. I'll just wait till it's gone. Because they're probably trying to push you into doing something. Kind of like when you get, you're trying to go find a car. You're trying to buy a used car. And the guy starts talking faster and faster, and then he's like, oh, I've got these other people trying to buy this car too, so you better make a decision quickly because they're going to be here this afternoon, and if you don't buy it right now, it's going to be gone, right? Usually that means the engine's bad or it's got a cracked block or something, okay? Don't buy it. It's a lemon. Because usually people that are trying to, the faster they talk or the more limitations they put on to your having to make a decision, and the quicker they expect you to make that decision, the more likely they are to be trying to pull one over, of some sort. So, but you just make your own conclusions on these things because I am not a medical professional. So, anyway, I think that's about it for right now because, there's just endless amounts of news and I could just go on and on and on, but I do really need to get to doing this week's Bible reading, and I'm behind on our prayer videos, and I really want to get some other footage out that I've got, and I really want to do that video on that show. Because some of the artwork in this and the stuff that I found in that is going to blow your mind. Especially people that are familiar with iPad Go. So anyway, I will leave you with that to mull over. That should be enough to chew on for today. And I will be back again real soon. And I hope you guys are all doing well. And I pray for you regularly. I hope that you're all healthy and you're hanging in there. Try to stay positive because even with all of this stuff going on, just remember that Jesus is coming soon. And all of this stuff is part of God's plan. It's got to come to pass in order for the next step, which is the rapture and then the tribulation, where the Jews and the people who didn't get saved before the rapture will get possibly a second chance to do so. Sometimes seeing is believing, and once everybody is gone and they start to say, Oh, well, I guess this person who was constantly talking about the rapture was telling the truth. And unfortunately for them, it'll be too late for them to go in that rapture. But at least they can, hopefully they can, withstand the Antichrist system, because we've been telling them and warning them about this for so long. That's why I think it's so important to leave rapture letters and information for people that do get left behind, that, hey, even though I'm gone, know that I'm in heaven and I'm safe because I was raptured to heaven, and I'm sorry that I can't be with you to get you through what's about to happen, but I'm with you in thoughts and prayers, and this is what you can expect and how to help you get through it. Leave them a Bible. I've left supplies for people that might find my stuff so that it can help them to withstand the mark of the beast as long as possible. And hopefully when you leave them the information of what's going to happen during that time, they will start to see that happen a little at a time, and they'll believe. But it's going to be tough. Don't wait for that if you are not saved right now, because there's going to be that whole the big deception that happens, and God says that there will be like there's going to be kind of like a supernatural blinding that happens to people where they chose not to believe the truth now, and so that they will believe a delusion during the time. And I think that that's going to be the lie of the Antichrist. And a lot of people are going to take that mark of the beast, in which case they will be damned. So make sure that you leave all of that information the best you can. And that's all you can do. Pray for them, witness to them, and then it's between them and the Lord. And just hopefully He wants them to be saved too, and that's all that you can do, is just know that if you want them to be saved, imagine how much more the Lord wants them to be saved. And so He's working on, likely, He's still working on them in ways that you don't see. You may think, oh no, it's hopeless, this person's never going to get saved. But I can tell you from personal experience that I've thought that of people, and then my faith is so much stronger now because of watching these people make a complete 180 and get saved and completely change and grow and grow and grow before my eyes in their Christian maturity. It's mind-blowing. And God does not ever cease to amaze me daily. So never give up on somebody, because you never know what one thing is going to click and they're going to get saved. So anyway, I just wanted to leave you with that as well. Okay, I hope you're all doing well. God bless you. I love you, and I'll be seeing you. Bye-bye.